The Droxery cruiser glided in low orbit over the planet, a silent predator wrapped in reflective plating. Inside, the atmosphere thrummed with anticipation. The air, thick with pheromone-laced arrogance, tasted of old victories and fresh bloodlust. Varric stood at the central viewport, arms folded behind his armored back. His eyes, two dark slits rimmed with gold, tracked the slow rotation of the world below. Earth. Blue, bloated, cluttered with decaying infrastructure and unregulated biospheres. He exhaled a huff of disdain. Primitive, Skarn said, voice sharp and young. He leaned on the console beside Varric, tail flicking with restless energy. Their last recorded orbital defense was a half-century ago. Carbon composites, ceramic plating, chemical propellants. These things are little more than bipedal vermin. They survive, Varric replied, his voice like gravel scraping steel. Survival is never primitive. Skarn snorted. So do cockroaches. They don't leave traps in neutron storms. A murmur passed through the hunting party. The last Earth encounter, a skirmish during an illegal culling mission, had ended with the loss of 2 vessels to an unseen threat in the magnetosphere. It was dismissed as coincidence. Varric had never believed in coincidence. He turned from the viewport. We land in Zone Delta. Marshland. Biodense. No cities for 200 clicks. 1 local, possible unregistered. Infrared markers show movement. Skarn grinned, mandibles flaring wide. 1 human? We're wasting our blades. Wasting them? Varric stepped forward, his voice dropping into command. You believe a true hunter requires a stampede to prove his worth? No, war leader. I meant. Quiet. Speak less, learn more. The silence that followed was both reverent and expectant. 6 Droxery, all ranked, armed, and bred for the hunt. Each bore the markings of 10 victories or more. And yet, none challenged Varric's authority. A low chime echoed through the chamber. The drop pod was ready. Earth's atmosphere greeted them like a wounded beast, humid, hissing, choked with spores and insects. Trees erupted from the muck like frozen explosions, gnarled and twisted, half drowned in stagnant water. The sun hovered behind thick clouds, offering little light, less warmth. Skarn stepped out first, his boots sinking slightly into the wet soil. He raised his head, sniffing the air. This is their cradle? A festering pit of rotten algae. Varric's boots sank deeper. He welcomed the resistance. Camouflage. Confusion. Concealment. To them, this is advantage. Skarn scanned the tree line with his visor. They hide. That's all they do. They endure, Varric said. From 100 meters away, hidden beneath a curtain of Spanish moss and brackish water, Cole Brennan watched them arrive. He didn't flinch. Didn't reach for the rifle slung across his back or the knife sheathed at his hip. His breathing stayed low, matched to the movement of the wind. He'd been lying in the muck for nearly 2 hours, unmoving, face caked in mud, heat signature muted beneath layers of natural insulation. The biting insects didn't bother him. Neither did the heat. He narrowed his eyes behind his camouflage face net, tracking the taller one, the one with the authority. The leader walked like a veteran. Slow, deliberate. The others moved too quickly, glancing over their shoulders, weapons twitching with eagerness. One of them kicked at a tree root and snarled at the splash it made. Tourists. Cole blinked slowly. In his mind, he labeled them. Tall one was boss. Twitchy one was babyface. The others hadn't earned names yet. They thought they were here to hunt. That was the first mistake. He knew this patch of land like a second skin. 47 square kilometers of abandoned conservation territory, wrapped in red tape and international no-fly zones. Officially, it was uninhabitable. Flooded. Toxic. The truth was simpler, it was forgotten. That's why he had chosen it. A man didn't vanish in the desert. Deserts were too honest. In the swamp, you disappeared. He shifted his weight half an inch, just enough to ease a cramp in his thigh. The mud held him like a lover. If the Droxery scanned this area, they'd see nothing but biomass and methane. They weren't the first off-worlders to step on his turf. The others had been smaller, scouts, researchers, curious tourists who'd strayed past the line. They hadn't gone back. Cole wasn't a soldier anymore, not officially. No rank, no flag, no chain of command. Just a man with too many scars and too many quiet days. But instinct didn't retire. He watched them fan out, eyes scanning the tree line, antennae twitching as they absorbed atmospheric data. One of them sprayed something into the air, likely trying to map pheromone trails. He almost smiled. Everything they carried was expensive. Manufactured. Designed for clean, controlled theaters. They didn't understand where they were. Cole reached down into the muck and slowly drew out a curved piece of bone. A gator fang. Old. Polished. Balanced with a counterweight of wire and rusted screws. The weapon wasn't beautiful, but it had killed before. He'd read the reports, pieced together from buried briefings and intercepted transmissions. The Droxery hunted for ritual, not for need. They believed it sharpened them. Kept their race dominant. They chose prey that could fight back, but not win. He rolled his neck slowly. A vertebra cracked like a branch. They were in for a long week. Back near the pod, Skarn stabbed his blade into the earth and scowled. I smell rot. Sulfur. Mammalian piss. Do they even bathe? One of the others chuckled. We should torch this sector and move on. No, Varric said. He crouched near a puddle, fingers brushing the surface. A ripple danced outward. They are watching. Skarn laughed. From where? The mud. Perhaps. You really think one of them could challenge us? Varric didn't answer. He stood and looked out into the trees. The wind shifted. For just a moment, he thought he saw a shimmer, like light bending over heat, but it passed. Set up perimeter, he said. No scans. No drones. We hunt with eyes. Ears. Honor. Skarn's expression twisted. Tradition again. Instinct dulls when it relies on machinery. They obeyed, albeit with irritation. Plasma rifles remained slung but ready, claws tapping nervously against ceramic armor. They were eager, but too clean. Their hearts had never raced for hours while submerged in waist-deep water. They'd never had to bleed quietly, or bite a stick to muffle a scream. Varric stayed still, eyes on the trees. Cole watched them begin their circle. He noted their pacing, their discipline. They weren't amateurs. That would make it easier, and harder. He reached slowly for a reed sticking out of the mud and began to breathe through it. Slow. Rhythmic. Just like the old drills. Time passed. A dragonfly landed on his forehead and sat there. He smiled under the mud. The Droxery believed this was the first day of the hunt. That was their second mistake. For Cole, it had already begun 2 days ago. When the orbital shadow appeared. When the egrets flew west, not east. When the water levels shifted without the wind. The swamp whispered when it was disturbed. You just had to know how to listen. He lay still. Waited. They would come. And when they did, they wouldn't be laughing. Not for long. Twilight bled across the sky in long orange smears, broken by the twisted silhouettes of cypress trees. The swamp came alive with a chorus of clicking insects and throaty amphibians. Mist curled above the water like breath from a dying god. Cole moved through the shadows, barely disturbing the foliage. His body, smeared with thick clay, dissolved into the darkness between trees. Every step was calculated. Every sound avoided. The land knew him. He moved like it did, slow, deliberate, patient. The Droxery were not patient. Skarn trudged through the muck with growing irritation, his plasma rifle scanning in wide arcs. He slapped away branches and vines with the same disdain he reserved for prey that ran instead of fighting. Mosquitoes clung to his face shield. Slime oozed along the gaps in his armor's joints. This place is a disease, he muttered into his communicator. Discomfort is not a threat, came Varric's voice, low and firm. Adapt. Skarn growled, more out of frustration than defiance. He resented the old warrior's cryptic calm. The hunt was meant to be decisive, explosive, a clash of force, not a drawn-out crawl through filth. He paused by a cluster of gnarled roots, where something had disturbed the mud. A trail, maybe. Thin. Inconclusive. Still, it was movement. He knelt, sniffed, adjusted his visual spectrum. Nothing. He stood up, irritated. Cole was less than 20 feet away, pressed flat against a downed tree, half his body submerged. He could see the alien's legs, heavy and broad, crusted with mineral flakes. The hunter scanned the tree line again before moving on, oblivious to the man buried in the muck behind him. Cole let him go. Not yet. Further west, the others spread into a loose wedge formation. Their discipline was eroding. The terrain was breaking their rhythm, separating them by too many trees, too much noise. Each one carried a HUD, sure, but the foliage interfered with line-of-sight signals. They dropped without drone relays. Varek's insistence on honor had left them deaf and dumb once scattered. Cole moved through the reeds like a ripple. He knelt beside a stump wrapped in creeping moss and pulled a length of braided wire from a waterproof pouch. One end was fitted with a sharpened carbon tip, the other anchored to a tension coil he'd harvested from an old rail engine. He'd buried this trap 2 days ago, just a backup, in case they came through this exact pass. He didn't expect them to, but he'd learned that the best traps weren't laid for certainty. They were laid for opportunity. The nearest droxery, a stocky one with burnished red armor, stepped into the path. Cole's fingers brushed the pressure plate hidden beneath a layer of leaves. The wire hissed. The carbon tip burst upward and drove itself deep into the droxery's throat, sliding between armor plates with surgical precision. The creature spasmed, gargled once, then collapsed, kicking briefly before going still. There was no scream. Cole didn't celebrate. He waited. Listened. When no others came running, he slipped forward, unclipping a pouch of dark powder from his belt. He poured it around the corpse, a compound to distort thermal readings, and dragged the body gently into a hollow between roots. He wiped the blade clean and whispered, "One." Back near the drop pod, Skarn received the silent ping. One of their units had gone offline. No alarm, no final transmission. He tapped his ear. "Carrick? Respond." Nothing. He turned toward the others' coordinates. Varek's signal was moving slowly, methodically. The others were spread too wide for visual confirmation. "Something's wrong," Skarn muttered. "Report," Varek ordered. "Carrick's down." No signs. No combat logs. Just, gone. A pause. Then, fall back. "Group at my position." Skarn didn't move. His pride wouldn't let him. "If it's just one of them, I can finish this myself." "This is not about finish lines," Varek said. "You are not being tested for glory. You are being measured by survival." Skarn cut the feed. Cole watched him through a lens crafted from melted plastic and water-sealed bark. The magnification was crude, but functional. He could see the alien's hesitation. The twitch of a claw. The angry flex of muscle. He wondered how much ego that armor hid. Skarn turned sharply and began sweeping toward the corpse's last known signal. He moved faster now, rifle raised, teeth bared. Cole waited until he passed, then followed. Every 30 seconds, Skarn stopped, scanned, sniffed the air. Cole stayed behind cover, matching pace, studying movement. He didn't need to guess what Skarn would do next. Pride made people predictable. When Skarn reached the hollow between roots, he found nothing. Just disturbed mud and a faint acrid smell. He hissed in frustration. "Coward," he spat into the darkness. "Is this your war? Dead things in shadows?" Cole stayed low, 30 feet behind him now. A branch creaked overhead. A toad croaked. Water lapped softly against rotted trunks. All normal sounds. He unslung the old hunting bow he kept strapped across his back. The arrows were homemade, obsidian tips with stabilized shafts, but they flew straight and buried deep. He didn't plan to use it yet. Not unless Skarn offered a clear angle. Instead, he crept forward and dropped a small device near the roots. A lump of bioreactive gel fitted with a pressure fuse. He didn't need a kill. A message would do. Skarn circled the hollow twice, growing more agitated. The absence of blood unsettled him. So did the silence. He started back toward the group. The moment his foot hit the pressure gel, the swamp exploded. It wasn't fire, just gas, amplified with a shock trigger. A deafening boom cracked the air and launched him backward into a tree. His helmet slammed against bark, cracked at the edge. He groaned and tried to stand. Cole watched from behind a curtain of vines. He didn't move in. Not yet. The others would come now. That was the point. Less than a minute passed before Varric arrived, flanked by the 2 remaining hunters. Their rifles were up. Their scans went wide. One moved to help Skarn to his feet. Trap, Skarn rasped. Triggered by. Varric held up a hand. I know. He crouched beside the blast site, running clawed fingers over the residue. Primitive material. But effective. Cole was already gone, back in the water. The Droxery regrouped beside the steaming crater. 1 dead, 1 wounded. 2 days into the hunt, and they had yet to see their prey. He's watching, Varric said. Then let him, Skarn growled. I'll tear him apart. You'll do nothing unless I order it, Varric snapped. You think strength alone wins the hunt? This human has wounded you and killed Carrick using nothing but the terrain and sharpened sticks. He ambushes, Skarn spat. He hides. He controls the pace. Varric rose slowly. You confuse visibility with dominance. That's why you're bleeding. Skarn looked away. The other 2 stayed silent, eyes scanning, hands tight on their weapons. Varric turned his gaze to the trees. He's testing us. But he doesn't know our measure. Not yet. In the distance, thunder rumbled. A storm was coming. Cole crouched inside a hollow log, half submerged, water lapping against his legs. He counted the silhouettes. Catalogued reactions. Watched Skarn lean heavily on one leg. Tracked the war leader's caution. They were adjusting. Not enough, but they weren't as stupid as they'd first seemed. He didn't expect this to be easy. The first kill had been a warning. The next would need to be personal. He closed his eyes and let the swamp swallow his scent. War was never about fairness. It was about control. And this was still his ground. Rain fell hard through the canopy, fat drops smacking against leaves and water with the rhythm of distant drums. Lightning flashed in quick, silent bursts, illuminating twisted trunks and rippling pools for heartbeats at a time. The storm drowned weaker sounds, breath, footfall, whispers, but it amplified movement. Anything that disturbed the water echoed. Cole moved anyway. He welcomed the rain. It washed away scent, broke thermal scans, and masked the rustle of gear against bark. Every droplet on his face cooled the burn in his muscles. He'd been awake for 40 hours, most of it buried in mud or crawling through cold water, but his mind was clear. Across the marsh, Skarn limped along a narrow ridge of dry ground, plasma rifle raised, breath loud in his helmet. His cracked visor flickered with static each time lightning flashed. He'd refused treatment, refused rest, and refused to regroup. Varric had ordered the others to sweep the perimeter, leaving Skarn to act as bait. Cole didn't believe that was by accident. The alien's pride was leaking into every movement now. Every snarl, every twitch. He wanted revenge, not a kill. Cole stayed parallel to him, weaving through vines and roots, moving when the wind surged. Skarn didn't know he was being shadowed. Not yet. He passed within a few feet of a tripwire and didn't notice. Cole let him walk. Further north, the others moved in a wide search pattern, methodical but slow. Varric's voice came in brief radio bursts, issuing quiet commands. He didn't waste words. He didn't need to. The old Droxery understood what was happening, even if Skarn didn't. Cole didn't underestimate Varric. There was weight in his stillness, discipline in his caution. But he also sensed limits. Varric was trained. Cole was forged. There was a difference. Another flash of lightning lit the swamp. In that moment, Skarn turned. He stopped. Cole froze beneath a curtain of ferns. Skarn's helmet turned slowly, scanning the trees. He didn't move his weapon. Didn't shout. He simply looked. Then, without warning, he fired. Plasma scorched the air and vaporized a trunk inches from Cole's right side. The heat rolled over him in a wave. He didn't flinch. Another shot followed, then another, erratic, rushed, directed more by suspicion than certainty. Skarn's aim was wild. He advanced 2 steps, snarling, smoke rising from the rifle's vents. Cole slipped sideways, circled behind a collapsed tree, and waited. A patch of churned mud betrayed Skarn's last steps. He was closing in. It was time. Cole reached down and drew a thin strip of black rubber from his belt. A slingshot. Crude, silent, loaded with a small metal ball soaked in phosphorus gel. He didn't aim for the body. He aimed for the weapon. The shot rang out like a snapped twig. The ball struck Skarn's rifle just above the grip. Sparks flew. The gel ignited with a shriek of white fire. Skarn howled and dropped the weapon, clawing at his gloves as the heat spread. Cole surged forward. He didn't run. He lunged, silent and sudden, like something loosed from the earth. He hit Skarn hard, knocking him off balance. They crashed into the mud, grappling for position. The Droxery fought with sheer power, arms swinging, claws raking, legs kicking with bone-cracking force. Cole absorbed the blows, staying close, denying leverage. A backhand struck his ribs and sent him rolling. Pain flared, sharp and deep. Skarn charged, bleeding from his forearm, eyes wild. His helmet had cracked further, exposing part of his face. Rows of sharp teeth glinted in the dark. Cole kicked upward. The heel of his boot connected with Skarn's knee. Something popped. The alien roared and stumbled. Cole drew his knife. It was short, curved, matte black. He kept it in a reverse grip and moved in close, driving it between armor plates under Skarn's arm. Blood sprayed. Skarn swung blindly and caught Cole in the shoulder with a jagged elbow spike. The force knocked him back again. They circled each other now, both limping, soaked and filthy, rain matting hair and scale. "You hide," Skarn spat. Cole didn't speak. "You trap, sneak, crawl. Like vermin." Cole watched him. "You think that makes you strong?" Skarn snarled. "No," Cole said. "It makes me alive." He moved again, fast, too fast for Skarn's reflexes. The knife flashed once. A deep gash opened across Skarn's chest. The alien dropped to one knee, growling. Cole stood over him, breathing hard. "Last chance," he said. "Call for extraction." Skarn hissed through blooded teeth. "No." Cole stepped back and disappeared into the dark. He didn't need to kill him. Not yet. Let him live. Let him carry the message. Hours passed before Varric found Skarn slumped against a tree, one arm hanging uselessly, armor scorched and dripping. The war leader crouched beside him. "You saw him?" he asked. Skarn nodded. "He didn't run. He didn't beg. He let you live." Shame filled the silence between them. Then Skarn said, "He's not prey." Varric stood slowly. "He's an environment." The remaining hunters regrouped near the ruins of an old observation tower. Their numbers had dwindled to 4. Each bore injuries now. One had lost part of a hand to a pitfall. Another had been struck by a falling branch laced with paralytic resin. No signs of energy weapons, no electronic interference. Every wound was handmade. Varric stood among them, eyes scanning the trees. "He chooses where we walk," he said. "He decides what we see. What we touch. What we hear. This man is not hunted. We are." Silence again. This time, none dared challenge him. "The swamp is not the enemy," Varric continued. "The camouflage is not a shield. It is a weapon." Skarn said nothing. He stared at the mud between his feet. Cole watched them from above, nestled in the rafters of the collapsed tower, eyes narrowed, chest heaving in quiet, measured breaths. He saw them begin to break, saw the weight of failure settle into their shoulders. This wasn't fear yet. Not fully. But it was close. He didn't smile. He adjusted the coil of rope wrapped around his waist and prepared the next step. They would retreat soon. The smart ones would want to. But they wouldn't leave without their commander's approval. And Varric wouldn't give it until he was sure. Which meant there would be one more encounter. One final push. Cole welcomed it. He slipped back into the rain, the swamp folding around him like a cloak. The trees whispered, the mud sighed, and the water swallowed his scent once more. Above, the clouds cracked with distant thunder. The next day would be the last. Dawn bled across the swamp like a wound, gray and sickly, casting long shadows between the cypress knees. The rain had stopped, but the trees still wept, shedding heavy droplets onto the underbrush. Mist clung low to the water, thick enough to smother echoes. Cole crouched in the hollow of a downed log, rifle across his lap, eyes fixed on the fog ahead. His breath came slow and shallow, barely disturbing the air. He had not slept. His ribs ached from the fight. Blood caked his shoulder, sticky beneath the gauze. He hadn't changed it. Pain grounded him. There were two of them left. Varric. And the one with the broken hand, the silent one who hadn't spoken since the second night. Cole hadn't learned his name. It didn't matter. He was just the last piece before the final move. He listened to the birdsong. Still there. Nervous, but alive. That meant the pair hadn't entered the sector yet. The swamp always warned him. It had warned him of everything. He pulled a strip of charcoal from his pouch and blackened the exposed skin of his face. Around his neck hung a piece of shattered Droxery visor, still smeared with dried alien blood. A trophy? Maybe. Or maybe just a reminder. He stood slowly, stepped into the water, and vanished into the mist. Varric moved with caution now, each step placed deliberately, eyes scanning both the canopy and the roots. The younger warrior followed behind him, slower, favoring his injured hand. They hadn't spoken in hours. No need. Varric had given no order to leave, and none would ask again. The mission was no longer about a kill. It was about something older. Something deeper. He needed to see the man. To look into his eyes. Cole wanted the same. They found the bodies at noon. 2 Droxery skulls, stripped clean and placed atop spears made from mangrove wood. The arrangement was deliberate. Decorative. The posture of the trophies mimicked a traditional Droxery funeral stance, modified, distorted, twisted into something unrecognizable. The younger warrior hesitated. "He's mocking us." "No," Varric said. "He's answering us." He studied the ground. No prints. No sign of recent passage. He crouched, reached into the mud, and pulled out a small fragment of metal. A tag. It bore human characters, scratched nearly to oblivion. USMC, he read aloud. Cole Brennan. The last warrior tilted his head. Military? More than that, Varric said. He was born in combat. He rose, holding the tag like a relic. He is not here to survive. He is here to teach. They walked on. Cole watched them from above, perched in the fork of an old tree. His rifle was gone now. Too loud. He carried only the knife and a sharpened length of rebar tied to a fiberglass rod. The weapon had no elegance, no name, but it was honest. He waited until they entered the clearing. It had once been a ranger station, long since reclaimed by vines and mold. The roof sagged. The walls had collapsed. The old observation platform leaned sideways, its ladder rusted through. Varric stepped into the open first, scanning the perimeter. The younger one entered behind him, turning slowly, distracted by the ruined structure. That was the mistake. The trap was simple. A weight-triggered snare rigged to a fallen branch and counterbalanced by a length of coiled steel cable. The cable snapped forward, caught the younger Droxery at the knee, and jerked him sideways into a jagged stump. His armor split open. He screamed once, then went still. Varric turned, raising his weapon, but it was too late. Cole dropped from the tree. They collided hard, rolled through the mud, fists slamming against armor, blades flashing in the dim light. Varric was strong, more precise than Skarn, faster despite his age. He twisted and threw Cole off, rose to his feet, and drew a short ceremonial blade with a curved edge. Cole landed on one knee, breathing hard. His body burned. His left arm was nearly useless. Still, he rose. Varric studied him. "No armor," he said. "No scanner. You hunt by memory." Cole nodded once. "Why?" Cole didn't answer. Varric circled. "You could have run. We'd have never found you. But you stayed." Cole raised the rebar spear. "Why?" Varric asked again. "You needed to learn." Varric moved first, fast and direct. Their blades clashed, metal screeching against metal. Varric's strikes came in sharp bursts, targeting joints and ribs, testing Cole's reactions. Cole countered with feints and angles, using reach and terrain. They moved like shadows, slipping between broken walls and pools of standing water. Varric scored the first blood, a shallow cut along Cole's side. Cole struck next, a low sweep that drove the rebar into Varric's thigh. The alien staggered but didn't fall. They broke apart, both panting, circling once more. "You fight like a beast," Varric said. "But you think like a soldier." Cole spat blood. "Same thing out here." Varric lunged again, faster this time. Cole blocked the first 2 strikes, but the third slipped through, driving the ceremonial blade deep into his shoulder. He grunted, dropped the spear, and locked Varric's arm with both hands. He twisted. Bone cracked. Varric screamed. Cole drove his forehead into the alien's face. Once. Twice. A third time. Blood sprayed. The blade dropped. They crashed to the ground, wrestling in the mud, teeth bared. Varric reached for his belt. Cole drove the knife into his hand. The detonator fell into the sludge. They froze. Their faces inches apart, both drenched in filth, eyes blazing. "You won't stop them," Varric hissed. "Even if you kill me." "I don't need to," Cole said. "I just need to send them home scared." He drove the knife up under the jaw, through the soft flesh beneath the chin, and twisted. Varric convulsed, then went limp. Cole let the body fall. He sat there for a moment, soaked in blood and water, lungs heaving. His hands trembled. He stared at the trees. The birds were still singing. That was good. He stood slowly, limped to the center of the clearing, and dragged Varric's body into view. The last Droxry lay nearby, unconscious or dead. Cole didn't check. He took the ceremonial blade, wiped it on his leg, and jammed it into the soft earth between them. Let them come find it. Let them see. By nightfall, the extraction ship would arrive. Scanners would locate the distress beacons. A retrieval crew would descend, armored, alert, expecting a massacre of humans. Instead, they'd find this. 2 warriors broken and laid bare. 1 spear. 1 blade. 1 message carved into a tree with deliberate slashes. You hunted the wrong planet. Cole disappeared before they arrived, swallowed by the swamp, face streaked with blood and ash. He left no tracks. No heat. No sound. Just silence. And fear.